find out if we're live yet. Hey! Yeah, Dr. Loop has the sword. Glorious. Okay, good stuff. I am going to put you on a completely different screen so I can keep an eye on that while I'm reading things because I'm just that clever. Bear with us a second, folks, because I think it's just Loop at the moment. Yeah, we're just going to get some stuff sorted of an administrative nature. But yeah, we're here on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. And oh, okay. Okay. Right. In the absence of knowing what else I should be doing, I am going to go find the story that was suggested to me by Lou, which I have not read before. So this is going to be interesting. But let's see if we can get it. Brilliant. We are going to be reading The Fenstanton Witch. So let me see if I can find the text. That looks, there we go. Brilliant. This is the extraordinarily brightly orange archive page. This manuscript of this complete story draft is in Cambridge University Library under the unfinished ghost stories of M.R. James. I don't know. Oh, we're being rated? In a good way, I hope. Good stuff. All right, so it is easily recognizable as one of the tales referred to by M.R. James in his essay Stories I Have Tried to Write. So, when the story was first published in Ghosts and Scholars 12, 1990, I stated, this person, that the text is largely taken verbatim from the draft, but with some small revisions and repunctuations throughout for ease of reading. Thank you very much. NJR James. For the version in the Fenstanton Witch and Others, M.R. James and Ghosts and Scholars, 1999, reprinted in Ash Tree Press's A Pleasing Terror, the complete supernatural writings of M.R. James, 2001, I returned to the initial transcript made by myself and Daryl Pardo and explained that the revised text was closer to the original, but still slightly polished and with unreadable words worked around. We have now had another chance to examine MRJ's manuscript in detail and have discovered numerous errors and omissions in our original reading, for which I hope we can be partially excused on account of MRJ's handwriting, and hence in both published versions. We have also managed to make out all the formerly unreadable words with a fair degree of certainty. I'm kind of intrigued. I would almost like to read the original, just slightly mashed together version, but here we are. The following, therefore, is a definitive text exactly as MRJ wrote it, except for some repunctuation, and his frequent use of the ampersand throughout is replaced by and. Goodness knows why I had to gesture to make sure everyone knows what an ampersand is. Okay, so this is The Fenstanton Witch by M.R. James. Nicholas Hardiman and Stephen Ashe were two fellows of the King's College in Cambridge. They had come, like all their contemporaries, from the sister college at Eton, where they had spent their lives from about the age of 6 to that of 16, and at the time when we encounter them they were both men of about 30 years old. Hardman was the son of a Lincolnshire parson living at Thorganby-on-the-Wolds, while Ash's father was a yeoman farmer of Offspring in Kent. There are footnotes. I am not going to zip back and forth to the footnotes. We are just going to have this unfootnoted for the moment. Hardman was black, dour, and saturnine, with a rasping voice and a strong Lincolnshire accent which cannot be reproduced here. Ashe had the sturdy and somewhat slow intelligence of his Kentish ancestors, so we're going straight into the somewhat inter-county xenophobia. All right. The phrase "a good friend and a bad enemy" represents the opinion which the men of his year held of him. Both were in priests' orders, and each, we might suppose, looked forward in the fullness of time to occupying college livings, marrying and bringing up a son or two, one most likely to reproduce his father's career, another perhaps to go on the land and become a reputable farmer in a small way. I say we might suppose their aspirations to have been of this nature, for such was the programme of a majority of fellows of colleges at that time. But there is an entry in the book called Harwood's Alumni, which shows that they entertained ideas of a very different sort, and it has occurred to me that it may be worthwhile to tell the story of what they adventured and what came of it. I have alluded more than once to their times, but I have not yet told you when they lived. Anne was filling the throne of England, Scotland, Ireland, and France, and Dr. James Roderick was provost of the college, having been elected by the fellows in preference to Sir Isaac Newton, whom the Prince of Orange, King William III of blessed memory, would have intruded into that pasture. The fellows of King's had vindicated their right of election, and the lower master of Eton occupied the lodge. He was known as one of the 4 smoking heads, while Sir Isaac lived in the observatory over Trinity Great Gate, and, according to popular legends, gently remonstrated with his dog Diamond, or cut holes in his door to admit his cat and kitten. The university was a happy, sleepy place in those days, one is apt to think. But after all, what with the church in danger and the excitement of depriving Dr. Richard Bentley, then Master of Trinity, of his degrees, there was probably no lack of sport to be had within the precincts, and certainly just outside them there was more than there is now. Snipe were shot on Parker's Piece, and the dreary expanse of undrained fen was the haunt of many a strange fowl, not to speak of other inhabitants of whom I may one day find an occasion to tell. But it is time to leave generalities. The 2 sheep to whom we must return, and I am afraid they were black ones, were very close friends. Incidentally, I'm not sure the black here is referring to ethnicity. But few men in the university, or indeed in the King's College itself, could boast of more than a speaking acquaintance with either. They occupied one room in the old School of Kings, north of the chapel, which room was always locked when they were out. And these were not days when fellows, nor still less scholars, were in the habit of dropping into each other's abodes to partake of casual hospitality in the way of tobacco or whisky and water. The common life, such as it was confined to chapel, hall, and the fellows' parlour. All that was known of Hardiman and Ashe's way of employing their leisure was that they went for long walks together and smoked apparently very bad tobacco when they came back. It was a fine afternoon in October when these events began, or, to speak more truly, came to a head, which served to show what manner of men were Nicholas Hardiman and Stephen Ashe. Chapel service, we may be sure, was at 3, and both of our friends were there, staring at each other from opposite stalls. The reedy and pedal-less organ helped the rather infirm and jaded choir through a new verse anthem by Dr. Blow, during which the snoring of Provost Roderick was not doubtfully heard. At near 4, Dr. Tudway, the organist, played out the scant congregation with a march of his own composition. The choirmen hurried off to go through a similar performance at Trinity. The boys rushed off to whatever haunts in the town they had emerged from. The provost strolled to his lodge. Then, at the eastern end of the chapel, and the fellows and scholars made their way across the strip of ground on the north side, holding on their caps, for a strong west wind was blowing the yellow leaves about, and so into the old court and to dine-in hall. A course meal, I expect it was, and a silent one. The vice-provost and 3 or 4 seniors occupied one table on the dais. The masters of arts, among whom were Hardman and Ashe, filled a second along with the fellow commoners, and the bachelors and undergraduate fellows and scholars, 2 more. There may have been 50 people in the room. Not much passed at dinner, which lasted about 40 minutes, but afterwards the fellows returned to the parlour and the scholars to their rooms. With these last we are not concerned, but we may as well follow the seniors. They are sitting at a large table, clothless, with some decanters of wine. I don't know whether port or claret, much depends upon the date of Lord Methuen's treaty with Portugal, and something like conversation has broken out. Sorry about this, I am just resizing. Okay. Where did you ride today, Mr. Bates? Said Mr. Glynn. Only so far as Fenstanton. Huh, Fenstanton, ah, is that where the witch was ducked last week? Lord Blandford was riding by at the time. This was the Duke of Marlborough's son and heir, who died shortly afterwards, was now a fellow commoner, and his lordship made some hot-headed show at rescuing the old creature. Has there been any stir made? Dodgson of Magdalen has this living, but I doubt if he hath not moved. No one will. 'Tis a lost place, Fenstanton, for all it be on the Huntingdon road. Thus far, Mr. Glynn, you had rather a knack of monopolising conversation. To tell the truth, said Bates, I had not heard of the matter, but the bell was tolling for a burying as I rode through, and I happened to meet Dodgson coming from his beer and pipe, as I judged, to the churchyard. He did let fall something which could fit with what you say. Pray, did you hear the name, Glynn, Galpin, or Gibson, with some word with a G in it? Gibson. Well, the Gibson, that was the name for a guinea, so that ducking has finished the poor creature, said good-natured Glynn. These fen rustics are little but brutes. I vow the coroner should have sat, and there should have been a dozen strung up at the assizes, and in any but Dodgson's parish there would have been. But Lord, the man thinks of nothing but his tithes and his beer. Matthews has had the parsonage before Dodgson, said Bates, and in his time there were 4 attempts at swimming that old woman. Not a boy nor man in the parish, he told me, but was ready to swear she had signed herself away. But Matthews threatened to call in the sheriff, and he would have done it too, so they kept mum in his time. For all that, said Glynn, I remember his saying in this parlour that when he looked at her he was half in a mind to believe the tale. He pointed her out to me one day, and it is sure she might have sat for a portrait of the enemy. As far as her eyes were concerned, they were red as blood, and the pupils like a goat's. With which Mr. Glynn was silent and shuddered slightly. Did they bury her in the churchyard, Bates? Said Dr. Morell, the vice-provost. Yes, Mr. Vice-Provost, I noticed a grave dug in the north side, which I take it was for her. All this talk about burying witches puts me in mind of William of Malmesbury's tale that Dr. Gale printed not so long back. This was from a new contributor to the conversation, Mr. Newborough, afterwards headmaster of Eton, who was more bookishly inclined than many of his compeers. Do you know it, Mr. Glynn? You should look at Malmesbury. And he proceeded to tell a story which Southey has put into rhyme under the name of The Old Woman of Berkeley. After that came a short discussion of the Witch of Endor. Then the conversation drifted to Dr. Hoddy's book on the versions of the Bible, then by a not uncommon fate to Dr. Bentley's last enormities, and thence back to the familiar question of college livings and probable vacancies. In the midst of this, Hardiman and Ashe made their bow to the vice-provost and went out. They had neither of them made any remark since dinner, but Dr. Morell, an observant man, noticed that they had taken a very considerable interest in the early part of the conversation. "Two dull dogs gone," said Dr. Glynn when the door closed behind them. "Pity their wives if ever they marry, and their parishes if ever they take 'em." "Quite enough if they are dull," said Newborough. "I don't know about that, Newborough," said Morell. The man that has chambers under theirs doesn't always sleep best. What can keep those two men treading about the whole night, as I am told they do, and what have they on their minds that makes them sigh and moan like two sick owls, as Burton says? You know everyone in college, Glynn. Tell us, pray, were you ever in Hardman and Ash's chambers?" "Oh, not I," said Glynn. "I knocked at their door one day, I recollect, last year. Such a clatter as they made before they opened it. I vow I never heard, but all I can tell of the matter is that Hardman was as pale as a ghost when he opened to me. That place smelled as sweet as a bonfire of old rags and bones. Hardman made shift to ask me business, and then shut the door in my face." "Well," said the Vice Provost, "he might have spared himself the question, Glynn. I never knew you have any business in this life yet. Never matter. 'Tis time to turn unto the coffee-house, gentlemen. I have told Dr. Coates we should be there before 8. The clocks are going the quarter now." The company adjourned therefore to a coffee-house on the market-place, and smoked clay pipes until 10, with Dr. Roger Coates and some other gentlemen from Trinity, Queen's, and Bennett College. The curfew bell was ringing. This is part 2. And it was a fine night when Hardman and Ash, each with a packet and a stick, emerged from the gates of King's College and told the porter, a fuddling old ruffian, as were most college servants of that day, that they were not like to be returning that night. Neither said any word until they were clear of the town and on the Huntingdon road. Then said Nicholas Hardman, "If all goes as it should tonight, Ash, we shall know a matter worth knowing." Now, I can't remember which way around they were, and I'm not going to scroll back to say, so the accents are going to come as they will. "Yes, Nick, and there will be a matter worth having in one of these bundles," said Ash. "I dare swear, though, that there'll be some disappointment. Newbury's tale of the old witch set me a-thinking. You have the book on you, Nick?" "Book? What book? Dr. Gale's print of Malmesbury, I suppose, a fat folio of a stone weight. Is it likely?" "No, not Malmesbury. Our book. The book, I mean." "Call me fool if you like, Stephen, but don't ask such another question. Have I come forth without my head? That is as unlikely as it would be for me to leave the book in my chambers. But why, pray, does that ask Newborough's old story set you thinking?" "Why, only that if the same gentry that came for their friend in that story was thinking of waiting upon our friend at Fenstanton tonight, it's like we may see trouble." Hardman gave a snort. "And if they did, do you think a circle is broken so easily? Have I nothing here that avails to make them give back? Still, you are right in a way, Stephen, as you've been before. If we are later in the field than they, there may be trouble, even danger. What we would have is not what they want. If we get the 3 locks of hair and the winding sheet, we are masters of the elementals. The others want the soul." It was a thought that seemed to dash both of them for a moment, and they were silent. So the clouds flew across the moon, and the wind blew over the bare fields, and the bells of Cambridge came more faintly to the ear as they walked quietly on towards the sleeping village of Fenstanton. Part 3. Those who remember the road between Cambridge and Fenstanton will bear me out when I say that it is 11 miles long and presents few features of interest. There is an occasional wayside inn, a few farms lie a little off the road, and on a clear day we may see the lantern and western tower of Ely, and a good many nearer church towers. The church that lies nearest to the road is that of Lulworth, on the left hand, some 5 or 6 miles out. There was something doing at Lulworth when Hardman and Ash passed it. The bell was going and the windows lighted. Nocturnal funerals were almost the rule in Queen Anne's time for anyone who claimed to be a magnate, so that it did not surprise the lookers-on when they saw 2 lines of torches working their way slowly through the trees near the church, And when they saw a figure in white flit out of the south porch to meet the cortege, they knew it must be the parson. Yet a few moments, and the procession was in the church. Then they walked on again, for they had paused a moment. The turning out of the main road towards Lulworth Church lay some little distance ahead, and down the lane were coming a group of figures at a great pace. They reached the road and turned down it towards the travellers, who were a little daunted thereby, because they did not wish to be recognised as Cambridge parsons at that hour of the night. There appeared to be 7 people, clustering round one in the midst, and their action and gait was like that of watchmen who have taken a prisoner. The party came on, and it seemed as if this conjecture might fit the situation, for the person in the midst was plainly reluctant, and as plainly was being hurried on by the rest. Hardman and Ash drew towards the hedge to let these men pass, and their eyes were riveted upon the face of the captured man. It was not likely to be forgotten, for it is not often that any one beholds the face of a man who has lost all hope, and yet has room in his brain for an unspeakable fear. This is the sight which those 2 ill-starred priests were now looking upon, and they saw moreover that, in spite of his terror and desperation, the captive could look nowhere yet save straight in front of him, for anything seemed tolerable rather than to see the faces of the 7 who were about him. When they pictured the scene to themselves thereafter, they realized that his was the only face of which they had caught sight at all. Nay, it even seemed to them that there was no other face for their eyes to catch. The thing was past. It passed quite silently, and for many moments these 2 men stayed breathless to within an ace of sudden flight or swooning. They knew that they had seen that which no mourner at that funeral had seen, and it was in their minds that it is not always well for those whose eyes are opened. It may happen to some to see the mountains full of bones and chariots of fire, but to others are shown very different sights from that. Yet the natures of both were so obstinate and dogged that neither would broach to the other the thought of returning and giving up the dismal project they had in their minds. They went on. Soon they sighted Fenstanton Spire, and half a mile further they left the road and made their way across the fields to the side where the churchyard was accessible away from the street. It was not a difficult wall to climb, yet they were unnerved and took several minutes to get over it. Then they proceeded to go through the sinister rites and ceremonies which were to safeguard them against those powers with whom they supposed themselves to be leagued. For they are treacherous allies, as those tell us who claim to know the heart of the matter. On the north side of the dark church, even in its shadow and not more than 10 yards from a new-made grave, the only one on that side of the building, they picked out a space where the grass was shortest and drew 2 large circles, one within the other. And in the space between the circles they marked out with some pains the symbols of the planets and a few Hebrew letters which were meant to indicate names of angels and of the great power, whose aid, by one of the strange contradictions of art magic, they promised themselves they would gain for the work they were at. When their defence was completed, they stopped, and Ash looked at his timepiece. The hour was something short of 11:45, so they must wait until the middle of the night was reached. And now, what was it that these 2 educated clergymen proposed to themselves? And how came it that they were on an enterprise which one associates, not always correctly, with the darkest medievalism and the most defective civilization? You have guessed that they were earnest and credulous students of art magic. How came such men to be in Cambridge in the reign of Queen Anne? I can only answer that in that day there were many such men in Germany, and that the instinct which prompts men to seek intercourse with the unseen peoples of the air is one that may come to the surface in any civilization and in any century. Many have a sneaking idea that the intercourse has sometimes been gained, but that is little to the point. That which Hardman and Ash were determined upon was the obtaining of an ingredient for future spells, which should end in making them able to command the forces of nature to a degree which they believed many to have attained before them. They meant on this night, and they were confident of accomplishing it, to go through certain forms of words which would have power to make the corpse of the old woman buried that day to arise out of the grave and come to them, and give them, it is horrid to think of, the portion of the grave clothes and the locks of hair of which Hardman spoke when they were on the road. Then should the body return to the earth as it was, and the soil be replaced above it. They were to go back to their college the next day, and in 7 days' time, who so rich and powerful as Nicholas Hardman and Stephen Ash, esquires? It was with a strange kind of exultation that, as midnight came near, Hardman drew from his bosom a paper book about 100 years old, ill-written and full of diagrams like that which had just been drawn upon the ground, and within whose compass both of them were standing. Began to read, or intone, a Latin form of conjuration, a sinister kind of church service, in which the most sacred of names were freely employed, and to this Ash made the set appointed refrains. The night had been disturbed throughout and windy, but no rain had fallen, and the thin clouds kept covering the moon, which was by this time low and near the horizon. The wind rattled in the louvres of the tower, and every now and then swung the tongue of the bell so that it sounded in a dim and far-off fashion. Nicholas Hardman read on and read louder and faster, and Ash responded at short intervals. They had now entered upon the 91st Psalm, Qui habitat, whoso dwelleth, and they were just promising themselves deliverance from the terror that walks in darkness, when a blacker cloud than usual left the moon's face, and Stephen Ash fell like an ox at the feet of Hardman. For it seems that it had been determined that these fools should be answered according to their folly. I have said that the miserable and criminous old woman whom the fen men had killed was buried a bare 10 yards away from the two conjurers, and their eyes were often fixed upon her grave as upon the point to which their spells were directed. Looking over at the grave, Hardman beheld, crouched upon it, a shape which there was small likelihood of his ever forgetting. It was the figure, one would say, at first sight, of an enormous bat with folded wings and hints of head approaching the human form. In a short moment, Hardman caught sight of the folds of wrinkled skin or hide that hung down from the cheeks, of the wide ears which shone transparent in the moonlight, and of the 2 lines of dusky red fire which marked the almost closed eyes. And further, he declared afterwards, he saw the earth heap upon which this being was crouched stir and wave beneath it. Not long was he allowed to remain a spectator, for this terrific appearance rose to its height, and for a minute seemed to look about it as if for a victim whom it knew to be near. Hardman, almost at the pitch of despair, yet trusted dimly in his charmed circle, but the creature on a sudden turned full in his direction and stepped swift and straight towards him, not flinching for an instant at angelic names or planetary symbols. In another moment its talons were raised towards his face, and he knew no more. It was Ash who helped him back to Cambridge in the morning of the next day, and it was Ash who also, for the 20 years that he survived, sheltered him in the parsonage of Willerton and administered to him, himself a stricken man. But Hardman never saw the light again. The college at large never learned the rights of the story. 2 days after the catastrophe, Mr. Glynn says to Mr. Morrell, being Vice Provost, "What did you do at the seniors' meeting this morning, Mr. Vice?" "Sealed the presentation to Eden Lewis and received a declaration, Glynn." "A royal declaration, or what?" "No, Glynn. Mr. Provost will tell you about it, maybe, if you ask him." So off goes Mr. Glynn to the lodge, but Provost Roderick is pale, which is not natural to him, and not smoking, which is decidedly unnatural, and disturbed and uncommunicative. And Mr. Glynn can only learn that it is a matter which the seniors have decided to keep private. During the next week, a barrow-load of matters from one set of chambers in the King's College is wheeled off in the direction of Barton and does not come back. And most of the seniors are very regular in their attendance in the chapel for some months. I cannot help connecting these events I have set down with that entry in the protocollum book, which states that 2 gentlemen, being fellows of the college, were permitted to register a solemn abjuration of all unlawful acts and the practising of which they had grievously transgressed, and that it was agreed that the provost and seniors shall exercise their utmost discretion to the end that this matter be kept strictly private to the seniority. And that is the end of the story of the Witch of Fenstanton. Don't fuck with dark forces, kids. I think that's the message of that one. Don't worry, I didn't get got. I just wanted to plug my phone in. Right. Okay, let's see what people have been saying. Oh yes, Happy Christmas by 5 minutes. Gentle Moth is ahead of us. Let's see. Oh, hey, Neve. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed. Who else have we got? Okay. Oh, hi. We got raided. Fantastic. Hello, Meredith. Emeritus Meredith, folks. Fantastic. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Does anyone have any requests for anything else? I need to go look at the Facebook as well, just to be certain what is going on there. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm just going to check and see if anyone's put any comments on Facebook. Nope. None of that. That's all right then. Okay. Let me have a look at that one. Oh, we have a comment. My choice, but with ghosts, says Rose. Okay. Sounds like Lou is coming upstairs. Hello.
I'm nodding. Facebook is pretty dead.
Yeah, it's just Rose who's said.
Facebook is pretty dead. YouTube is mainly poets, and
That sounds about right.
and Twitch is mainly the Meredith stream. Although Tim doesn't seem to be there anymore.
That's fair.
I suspect he's gone to bed. Bless him.
You know, it's late. The young folk have no stamina these days. That's what I understand.
That much younger than us.
Okay. Well, I do have some ghost stories. Whether it's out of can I read it directly? It won't be out of copyright or anything like that. There's some Scottish ones. I've got them through in the other room.
It depends on whether they're
I'm not charging for it. Is that?
It depends whether they're traditional or whether they're.
They are traditional.
We're fine then.
We're gonna read them then. Back in a moment, folks. I am very well prepared.
You pick a couple of them and give them a choice. Hi.
Okay. Feeling like this is a good time to turn the lights down. I think it would probably have been a good time to turn the lights down earlier, but like I say, super prepared. I was making flapjack earlier. It looks really nice. I mean, it still burns like red hot magma, so we can't touch it yet. But let's see. That bit more atmospheric. Yeah, slightly more atmospheric. Um, if anyone wants to know, by the way, this jumper was knitted for me by Ian, Gentle Moth, as the mod there. Um, Not only is it gorgeous and green, which we're seeing as a solstice wish for um, the growth of spring as it comes to us, it also has a pocket, which makes it the best jumper in the world, as far as I'm concerned. You know I'm right. Okay, so this book, Scottish Hauntings. Don't know if you can see that clearly. It's not focusing very well. This cover shit me up as a kid. Um, and yeah, it's just it's very pretty, but also it's scary as hell. So these are kind of like traditional Scottish haunting tales, if you would like them. Um, we have the let's see what the Faye still in cooking mode. I need said ingredients. I mean contents. We have kind of themed them. So we have things like the ghosts of St Andrews, the ghosts of Inverore, barking dogs, so various kind of black dog, um so what I want, yeah, black dog legends and that kind of thing. It's not just East Anglia that those come from. Um we have the Cape Wrath ghost, green ladies, of which Scotland has a plenty. Um Ghosts of Inchnadamp. Is that the one? I think I remember that, yeah. The Haunting at Vicar's Bridge, The White Lady of Castle Huntley, The Ghost of McGurney Castle, The Bodach Moor, The Giant Old Man of Ben McD. I do not have the Gaelic, so I'm not going to pronounce this completely correctly. There's also the police station haunting, which sounds interesting. The Ghosts of Loch Tayside, The Searching Woman of Lewis, Lady Greensleeves of Hunting Tower, Hauntings at Glamis. Glamis is a fucked up place. I think we're going to go to Glamis because dang, um, there was some shit happened there. So those of you who don't know how that's spelt, by the way, it is Glamis, but pronounced Glams. And people just there was a lot of death. So nice line drawing there, Glams Castle. So according to this, written by Grant Campbell, there is probably no castle in Scotland more historically interesting than that of Glamis, where the swirling mists of history seem to enshroud the old towers and battlements. A legend frequently heard is that fiery pans on the summit of nearby Hunter's Hill, where invasion warning beacons were set alight, was the site on which the castle was originally to be built. The builders set to work on this site, but it was found that any progress made during the hours of daylight was mysteriously destroyed by some unseen hand during the night. As someone who is half Welsh, I am now thinking about a very similar legend a lot further south to the west. It was said that Hunter's Hill was the home of little people who had been disturbed by the efforts of the builders. No progress was made until at dawn one fine summer morning a voice was heard to say, "Build the castle in a bog, where it will neither shake nor shog." As a result of this direction, believed to have come from the little people, the castle was built on the present site in the early years of the 15th century. The castle is the seat of the Earls of Strathmore. It was also the Scottish home of the present Queen Mother, so this is an old book, basically. and the birthplace of Princess Margaret. So when we say the present Queen Mother, it is not the present Queen Mother. It is believed, despite the legend about the little people, that a fortified place occupied the site for centuries before the present castle was built. Tragedy and legend are intertwined in many stories, along with the recorded experiences of guests and servants living in the castle at various times. The sudden death, about the year 1537, of the sixth Lord Glamis was said to have been caused by poisoning. His young wife, Janet Douglas, a famous beauty, was accused of causing the death of her husband, but the evidence was inconclusive. About 6 years later, Janet Douglas was found guilty on false evidence of plotting to murder King James of Scotland and was burned to death in Edinburgh. The estates were taken by the crown from her young son, but were restored after the death of the king. And there's a very interesting line picture of a gleeful woman pushing a goblet at her husband there. She's very excited about him drinking that. Tragedy seems to haunt the family until the late 1600s, when Patrick Lyon was made the first Earl of Strathmore. He made many alterations to Glamis and built into the structure a number of secret chambers which may have been considered as hiding places during these troubled times of Scotland. It is said that during the march north to Aberdeen prior to the Battle of Culloden in April 1746, the army of the Duke of Cumberland rested at Glamis. Then, under the cover of darkness, local supporters of the rebellion cut some of the leather harness girths of the army's horses in an attempt to delay the march. One legend of tragedy is that in 1821, a firstborn son and rightful heir of the Earl was found to be deformed at birth and was kept out of sight from childhood to old age in one of the secret rooms because of his physical and mental deformities. To all intents and purposes, their firstborn son was said to have died in infancy, and the closely guarded secret was known only to the successive heirs and faithful factors of the estate. A contributor to a magazine in 1880 wrote that a workman who had been carrying out structural alterations inadvertently put a crowbar through what he thought was a solid wall, only to discover a secret corridor heading to a locked room. The man became frightened and reported on what had happened. The Earl, who was in London at the time, was summoned home by his factor, and it is said that the workman and his family immediately emigrated to Australia and were never heard of again. One appearance which may be linked to the secret room has been described as the form of an old person with crooked, misshapen legs and a large head with a tangled mass of grey hair. One lady claimed that she had been awakened one night by the feel of a beard or mass of hair brushing over her face. In the present royal apartments, there is a little stone seat just inside the door of the sitting room, and it is said that a little ghostly figure has been seen sitting on the seat and then disappearing through the wall. Another is a tall figure clad in bright armour, who is usually seen in the square tower, and it is associated with a noise like the clashing of swords as if a fight with weapons were taking place. One bright moonlit night, a guest, looking from a window, saw a dark object moving down the avenue towards the castle. As it came nearer, he saw that it was a carriage pulled by two horses, but there was no sound of wheels as it pulled up at the main door. After about a minute, it drove silently away, and the driver looked up. The onlooker saw that the driver had a terrible marked face, which he felt he should never forget. At breakfast in the morning, the guest remarked to the Earl of Strathmore that he must have had a very late visitor arriving in the carriage. The guest was given no explanation by the Earl, who became agitated, and the subject was changed. Shortly after his visit to Glamis, the same guest was about to enter a lift while staying in a Paris hotel when he saw in the lift a man whom he identified as the driver of the carriage. He stepped back from the lift in fright, and in an instant there was a mighty crash as the lift fell to the ground floor. The most recent sighting of a carriage at Glamis was during 1979 between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. when a 38-year-old lorry driver, Donald Martin, was driving home alone in a motor lorry I love how they've specified motor lorry here, carrying a full load of bottled milk in crates. His usual route from his depot was through the village of Meagle on the main A94 road, then turning in towards Glam's village to join the A928 road to Kirriemuir, directly opposite the main entrance gates of Glam's castle. On turning left opposite the gates, the Kirriemuir road is bounded on the right by a wall. About 200 yards along this road before coming to double bends, Donald Martin had to brake his lorry suddenly as a carriage pulled by two horses emerged from an opening in the wall and crossed the road from right to left. No noise was heard as the carriage disappeared. It was described as an open vehicle with passengers sitting along the sides facing each other. It was larger than the old-fashioned governess carriage, with a door and steps at the rear. The backs of the passengers on one side were seen by the lorry driver, but in the flash of time he was unable to describe the driver of the carriage. The ghostly carriage was seen on two more occasions, resulting in Donald's taking another route to Kirriemuir by turning off the main road before entering the village of Meagle. He was afraid that the sudden application of the brakes might shift his load of milk crates. His last sighting was in November 1979, and by avoiding the vicinity of Glamis, the milk has been delivered safely to Kirriemuir ever since. So that's that. What else have we got? We've got Ghosts, Spirits, and Spectres of Scotland, which is kind of cartoony. They were not sparing the schlock on this. Goodness. What have we got? Ghosts of the dead as opposed to other kind of ghosts, I suppose. I'm not sure why this is called Ghosts of the Dead, but that's what this section is called. So yeah, we have various sections and bits of this. I think you're supposed to just plunge in and read it because who wants a contents page in this? Do you get ooh, Tales of Horror. I feel like Tales of Horror might be more your speed, everybody. That or Strange Happenings. Tales of Horror. What have we got? Vibes. Yeah, I don't know if you can. Well, I think some ghosts are like memories of incidents that have happened, not necessarily the person's dead. Sometimes they're kind of foreshadowings. I don't know. But this part's called Tales of Horror. Whilst many ghosts tend to operate in their own time in the past and almost ignore the living person who observes them, there are some which seem able to project themselves into another time, the present, and exhibit signs of malevolence towards those whom they meet. Whether the malevolence is intentional or not, there are many who have recorded their experience which almost put fictional ghost stories to shame for their false inventions. The following stories have been collected from many sources over various parts of Scotland and serve to indicate the rather terrifying experiences of those persons, who had the misfortune to come into contact, often unintentionally, with the spirits of the long dead. There are a number of haunted houses in Glasgow. Most of these were buildings in which have occurred such deeds as murders and suicides. Here, in fact, may lie the reason for the seeming malevolence of some ghosts, which seek some kind of vengeance on the present living for the sufferings they had to endure at the hands of another living person in their own time scale. One particular house in the neighbourhood of Blytheswood Square in Glasgow was many years ago the subject of interest from a prospective buyer. He was taken with the whole building, except for the bathroom. This room struck him as being excessively grim. Its atmosphere and general appearance upset him, though for what reason he could not say. It was a room, he recorded later, that he would prefer to remain outside when in the house by himself. In the event, his wife being so taken with the house, it was purchased, but not before the bathroom had been thoroughly modernised and painted with a new gleaming white bath surrounded by wood. But even with this alteration, the owner felt decidedly uncomfortable whenever he was in the bathroom. This, although other members of his family felt nothing at all. The owner compromised by leaving the door ajar while he attended to his shaving and bathing, but his wife insisted that the door should always be shut, and that was that. One night he decided he must put his fears to the test. So he went along with a lighted candle to have a hot bath, with the door to the room firmly locked from the inside. You know that bit in more postmodern horror stories where someone says something like, "You're the kind of person people hate in horror films. You're the kind of person they yell at from the audience." This guy, at night, just a candle to go and have a hot bath in a locked room. Okay. Though quite uneasy for no apparent reason at all, he ran hot water from a gas geyser and undressed. As he was testing the heat of the water, a sound in the unlit fire grate made him turn round. But he saw nothing. Thinking it might have been something dropping from the chimney above, he turned his attention once more to his bath. Again, that noise from the grate. But once more, nothing to indicate the source. After investigating the grate thoroughly, he turned to make for the bath when he slipped and fell on the floor. For some seconds he lay still, recovering his senses, and then made to raise himself. Suddenly, his candle went out. He found himself in funereal blackness. Quite startled by now, he sensed a rising feeling of terror, and his first thought was to get to the door of the bathroom to cry out for more matches for his candle. Then, quite without warning, there came from the bath the sounds of rubbing and splashing as though some person was washing vigorously. The water rose and fell, bubbled and gurgled. As if to add to the realism of the sounds, there came gasping and puffing and the soft, smooth sound of a well-soaped flannel. The next thing to occur was the opening of a cupboard door, slowly and stealthily. The owner, transfixed in his terror, heard something approaching in his direction. Whatever it was came up to him, and something touched his naked skin. This was the hemline of silk petticoats from which exuded the perfume of violets. His terror increased when the ghost of the woman, for such it was, stepped on his chest, placing an ice-cold, high-heeled shoe on him as though he were a doormat. But the ghost was oblivious of his presence. Next, there came the sound of a movement as though the woman had reached the bath, to be followed by violent splashing and gasping. The noises of the bather grew weaker and finally ceased when the woman turned from the murder which she had obviously committed and made for the fireplace. The deep blackness in the room was now broken by the sight of a white, luminous face of a woman who was obviously beautiful, but whose beauty had turned into something repellent with hate. Then the face vanished, and the owner eventually made for the door to the room, unlocked it, and managed to reach the safety of his bedroom. As with the other times when he had confessed to his wife his uneasiness about the room, she scoffed at his fears and told him to think no more of the matter. For some days nothing more untoward occurred until one morning, when the eldest son in the family was running a bath, he saw floating in the bath the body of an old grey-haired man. It was bloated and had a purple hue. Glassy eyes stared at the ceiling. The boy screamed and ran from the room. The household immediately went to the bathroom to investigate the matter, but found nothing in the bath. The father had remained in the dining room. His own terrifying experience had been sufficient for him. Chiding the boy for his imagination, the family went out onto the landing to come face to face with a handsome woman dressed in costly silks and jewellery. She glided past them with silent footsteps and disappeared into a cupboard. The reason for the owner's uneasiness was now confirmed. Within a week, the house was empty and up for sale. Later inquiries revealed that at one time the house had belonged to a rich old man who had married a beautiful young woman of Spanish descent. Sorry. Um, the disparity in ages led to quarrels. The man was eventually found dead in his bath. There being no indication of violence, it was generally supposed that he had fainted and accidentally drowned. The young widow, who had inherited all the money, left the house, went abroad, and was never seen again. We have more Glasgow stories. I'm not going to read that one because it's got one of my triggers in it. Yay! Yeah, that's creepy. Hmm. Oh, so this is the one from the back. By the way, I should tell you what this is. This is Ghosts, Spirits, and Spectres of Scotland by Francis Thompson. Um, hmm. Okay, let's give it a go. Um, The experience of a couple who were touring Scotland in the years of the 1880s is particularly interesting in that the spirit manifestation caused terror and physical sickness. Previous one to this caused even more physical sickness, but we're not going into that one. The couple arrived in Dundee and were directed to a hotel, previously an inn near the Perth Road. They were delighted with the place at first sight. Being an old building, it exuded a pleasant atmosphere of old world charm. The interior was no less pleasing. Low ceilings, oak beams, polished wood floors, diamond lattice windows, and numerous nooks and crannies. The hotel was full, however, and the only accommodation the proprietor could offer was a room at the end of a long passage leading to the back of the building. It was a large room, the big ebony four-poster bed in a recess. A deep and dark cupboard was let into the wall, facing directly facing the bed. The couple were not at all superstitious, except insofar as they discussed how many memories were associated with such an old building. More than that was not discussed. Yet, when the couple undressed for bed, the woman sensed a curious sensation as she rummaged in the cupboard. Some time after a nearby church bell had struck midnight, the woman woke to become aware of a smell in the room. It was pungent and most offensive. It was so strong that it crept up her nostrils and brought her out in a cold release of perspiration. The smell overpowered her, and she decided to trace it, half knowing in her mind that it could not be other than associated with something horrible and strange. She got up from the bed, taking care not to wake her husband, and traced the source of the smell to the same dark cupboard which had upset her earlier. By the time she reached the cupboard door, the stench was almost suffocating. She paused for a few minutes. One voice within her told her to get back to her bed, but the other told her to satisfy her curiosity and open the door. At last, the latter voice dominated, and she opened the door. No sooner had she done so than the room began to fill with a faint phosphorescent glow, and she saw opposite her a human head floating in midair. It was the head of a man, red-haired and in an advanced state of decay. She was petrified and quite unable to cry out to her husband. Then, as the head began to move towards her, she screamed and fled to the bed, followed by the floating head. Her husband woke up at the sound and was even more terrified than his wife. As the head hovered over the bed, he tried to utter a prayer, but not one syllable came from his dry throat. He managed to stretch out his hand to the floor of the room and grasp his walking stick. With both hands, he brought it down on the head. The result was as they might have expected. The stick met with no resistance and came down on the bedclothes. The head continued its advance towards them. The couple jostled to get out of the bed together, and in their haste both fell on the floor. With the head now hovering over them, they could do nothing but watch it in terror. It descended lower and lower until it passed right through them and through the floor. Then it vanished. The couple took the next few hours until dawn to recover from their experience, and in the morning demanded an explanation from the landlord. At first, I was reluctant to offer any explanation and tried to convince them that it had been a nightmare. They insisted and were eventually told the story. What am I to do? I cannot shut up a house on which I have taken a 20 years lease, and after all, there is only one visitor in 20 who is disturbed by the apparition. What is the history of the head? It is said to be that of a peddler who was murdered here over 100 years ago. The body was hidden behind the wainscoting and his head hidden under the cupboard floor. The miscreants were never caught. They are supposed to have gone down in a ship that sailed from this port just about that time and was never heard of again. A hotel. Oh no, that's it. I, yes, don't see how that would cause a physical illness. Okay. Okay. Don't know. This one's got terminal sickness and hmm, spooky stuff. Okay. Oh, we've said glams. We've already had a bit of glams here. Oh, and someone here is summoning Satan in this haunted house. One rather malevolent ghost is that of Terrible William, otherwise Lord Solus, who is said to haunt Hermitage Castle in Roxburghshire. He had the reputation of being a skillful practitioner of the black arts, because I thought we'd go back full circle to where we started. Local tradition has it that to get the best out of his magical rites, he would kidnap local children. Yeah, this is horror. So we've got child death and other nastiness. Kidnap local children, imprison them in the castle's dungeon, and keep them until he was ready to use them in his foul rites, murdering them and using their blood to make his magic more effective. When eventually news of his deeds became known, the people of the nearby village stormed the building, took him prisoner, bound him in chains, and threw him into a cauldron of boiling lead. Like you do. After this execution of rough justice, his ghost was seen in and around the castle, reenacting the deeds of his erstwhile bad life. In his lifetime, he was supposed to have made a pact with Satan, who appeared in front of him wearing a cap stained red with the blood of his victims. In exchange for his soul, Lord Solus was rewarded with the right to summon the devil by rapping 3 times on an iron chest. And of course, there's a picture of Lord Solus rapping on the chest with a wee imp thing. Ah, Zoom, you and your focusing issues. All right. Step on me, Murder Mama Cheetah. See, I nearly said when I was reading it, some people are, some people are into that, or jokes on you, I'm into that. But yeah, those of you who are not watching on Twitch, of course, Lou is providing commentary, let's say. Um, Goodness. I'm going to read you a funny Scottish spooky story. It's not that spooky, but it is a bit funny. It's very short. This is from a book of Scottish folk tales. I can hear Lou cackling downstairs. What is happening? Smells and cupboards. Yes. If you move into somewhere with a smelly cupboard, never open it. There is a dodgy cupboard in my house, which Ian has told me not to put anything in, and I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with that. I can just not put anything in there. Um, Goodness. Okay. All right. This is 2 pages. Ooh. It's called Flitting, and it has this wee fella. Like I say, this is Scottish Folk Tales by Ruth Manning Saunders, and if you are my age or so, you will probably have come across her various compendia of, like a Book of Giants, Book of Dragons, Book of Wizards, Book of Witches, Book of Ghosts, which I don't have, I'm afraid. Otherwise, I would read from it. Um, what else should you? Loads of them. Basically, look up Ruth Manning Sanders. Now, you do have to kind of overlook some of the values of the time. So I was reading one of my favorite stories recently and went, oh, that's very sexist. So, yes, do bear that in mind. For the most part, it's okay, but occasionally you come across it and go, why are we pitting two women against each other like this for no reason? Humph. Anyway, this is called flitting. Once upon a time, the very naughtiest brownie in the world took it in his head to go and live in the house of a farmer. The farmer was well to do. He owned flocks and herds and corn lands and grazing lands. Everything prospered with him. But there he could get no peace because of that brownie who racketed about all night long, knocking over tables and chairs, breaking the crockery, upsetting the bowls of milk and cream in the dairy, pelting the walls with their newly made pats of butter, and pinching the maids in their sleep until they woke screaming. So, since the farmer couldn't get the brownie to go from the house, he decided to go from it himself and to move all his goods and chattels to another house that he owned, a house that stood empty at the other ends of his farmlands. No sooner thought of than set about. The farmer and his wife got busy packing, the farmhands got busy loading up carts and moving all the gear to their new home. By the end of a week, the new home was ready, and the old home left empty and desolate. And on a bright spring morning, the farmer and his wife, who were the last to leave, got into the cart, piled high with luggage, including the churn, and drove away from their old home, which was blazing merrily because the farmer, in his anger, had set fire to it. So away they drove, and at the top of a rise in the road, the farmer pulled up and turned his head to look back at the smoke and flames of his old home and to shake his fist at the impertinent brownie whom he had never set eyes on. "And may you enjoy making yourself merry amongst the ruins," he said. "You may fling about the ashes to your heart's content for all I care." "Well, I suppose it's for the best," said the farmer's wife, wiping away a tear, "but it sorely grieves me to be seeing what I see. It was a bonny house." As they paused there, gazing at the burning building, she in tears and he in anger, a neighbour who was riding along the road pulled up at the side of the cart. "So you're flitting?" said the neighbour. And a little wee squeaky voice answered from inside the churn, "Oh, hi, we're flitting." Is it giving you subtitles, by the way? Because that would be really useful. No, it is not. It used to be when we did um, we used to use the Zoom to Twitch, etc. Interface thing via restream.io, by the way, for those of you who want to stream to several places. Um, it used to give the subtitles as well, but it doesn't appear to be. Oh no, it is. It's just because of the delay between what I'm putting out and Twitch. Got you. Glad to see that. Got a bit of um yeah, bit of accessibility going on there. Right, what time are we at? I was wondering how people felt about a bit of Poe. So I'm gonna have a look in the chat to see how people feel about having some Poe in their lives, because I'm thinking, since we apparently have the poets high on YouTube, whether you fancy me reading some very overblown poetry. Um, that's an all caps yes from Neve. Fantastic. Okay. I mean, I'm going to take that as most of a vote. I'm going to have a wee check of Facebook and the like to see if anyone's saying anything there. Yeah, well, got a thumbs up though. That's nice. Don't know if that's for the poll or just for something else. Um, that's disappeared. That's no good. How's everyone doing, by the way? Merry Christmas and all that. Happy holidays. Sweet solstice. All of those things. Oh, we've got some comments on the Facebook. but is it going to show me the comments? That would be weird. Apparently, oh, there we go. Yeah, we do have some publishers here. Yeah, definitely. Rose is saying we're definitely clearly we need to publish sane yet scary ghost stories with the kind of footnote that there are at least four publishers here. Um, there's Ash, I think, and me and Rose. Who knows what's happening on that Facebook? Not on Facebook, on YouTube. Let's have a look and see if we've got any comments there. This is a really good idea of mine, wasn't it, to do this in four different places? Okay, 3 stars. Haunted but in an interesting way. Thanks for that. Lovely stuff. All right, cool. I'm going to find some Poe then. That's what's going to happen. We're going to find Poe because that's how we roll. The violent orange of the MR James there. If you do want any more or more MR James, put that in the comments as if there's a particular thing you want me to go for there. I'm going to need a drink in a second though. I do not wish to learn more with AI mode. As some of you know, I am particularly irked at the idea of AI right now. If anyone does consider it a good use of their time to scrape this recording and use my voice on AI, 1,000 curses upon your head. Or just may you see the error of your ways. Something like that. Okay. Ah, here we go. You want some really overblown poetry? We have The Bells here by Edgar Allan Poe. You want spooky and poetic? And like I say, the man did not know much in the way of, what's the word I want? Restraint. That's the word I want. Um, oh, yes, it's a very white page, which is why I am now extremely pale. Let's call it as atmospheric, shall we? Okay. I think this needs some water beforehand because my God. Can we have a shout out for the mods, by the way? Ian and Lou are keeping the chats. Well, I was going to say keeping them civilized, but I've met both of them. But they are making sure that people are being looked after, and they're doing this at very late Ian's time. It is nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's nearly 1, which is very late for Lou. So can we have some thanks and appreciation for them? Lovely, lovely people. Thank you. Very well behaved chat. We even got raided by Meredith Brothers people. Cool. It's either that or my beard is more scary than Tim's. Okay, so stretch out because this is the bells. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells, what a world of merriment their melody foretells. How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells, what a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight. From the molten golden notes, and all in tune, what a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from out the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells! How it swells, how it dwells on the future, how it tells of the rapture that impels to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells. Hear the loud Alarum bells, brazen bells, what tale of terror now their turbulency tells? In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright, too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek, shriek, out of tune, in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire, and a resolute endeavour now, now, to sit or never by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, bells, bells! What a tale their terror tells of despair! How they clang and clash and roar, what a horror they outpour on the bosom of the palpitating air. Yet the ear it fully knows by the twanging and the clanging how the danger ebbs and flows. Yet the ear distinctly tells in the jangling and the wrangling how the danger sinks and swells by the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells, of the bells, of the bells, 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 and the clamour and the clangour of the bells. Hear the tolling of the bells, iron bells. What a world of solemn thought their monody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with the fright at the melancholy menace of their tone. For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan, and the people, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple all alone, and who tolling, tolling, tolling in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart a stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human, they are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 a paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells, and he dances and he yells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells, of the bells, keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time, time, time as he knells, knells, knells in a happy runic rhyme to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells. Reading the comments. I would hate for anyone to think that I was counting the number of bells on my fingers to make sure that I did not do the wrong numbers of bells. That would be crazy talk. Why would you even suggest that? Mad scientist? I mean, to be fair, I did train in the science. House bells, yes, thank you. Glorious. Someone's killing Lou. Well done, everybody, because Lou is just shrieking with laughter downstairs, which is glorious. Um, Definitely killing Lou down there. Fantastic. Right. Does anyone have any suggestions or requests for anything we could easily find online? Yeah, yeah. Neve says, Lou, please don't die. You're too fun. You are too fun. Glorious. Okay. Bells. Okay. I might have to revive Lou. I do have brandy. It's very cheap though. I use it for cooking. Right. Any requests? Otherwise, I'm just gonna randomly start picking out the other things from Scottish folk and fairy tales, or because I think this is definitely out of print. This is old. Oh, you can tell by the font. This is old. Okay, it says 1997, but it does not look like it's from 1997 at all. Ooh, creepy. Um, okay. More Poe? Okay. Dr. Lou says, me and Murder Mamacita, or Mamacita, sorry, are setting up a haunted hotel. Fair enough. The step on me Mamacita is occupying Lou's mind now. This is going to be great. Right, Neve, do you want stories or poems from Poe? Because basically I'm on poets.org and I can probably find a bunch of stuff from him. Um, are you gonna lift it or are you just gonna Oh, there we go. Good grief, he wrote a lot. I might just have to pick one at random if you don't tell me. Dealer's choice? Yep. Yes, ceaselessly falling. We are now adding apparently murder Mamacita, although apparently she went abroad to spend her ill-gotten gains. Um, I don't know Poe that well, is the thing, despite appearing very, very briefly in the Bloody FM uh, take on it. What do you mean 2F? Is that the title of the poem? Yeah, okay. Oh, the sleeper. I think I know the sleeper. We've got the sleeper and the haunted palace. Those both sound creepy. Oh goodness. Did I say overwritten? Yep. Good Lord. Okay, so this is The Sleeper. I have not read this before, so this could go very interestingly. At midnight in the month of June, I stand beneath the mystic moon. An opiate vapor, dewy, dim, exhales from out her golden rim, and softly dripping drop by drop upon the quiet mountain top, steals drowsily and musically until the universal valley. The rosemary nods upon the grave, the lily lolls upon the wave, wrapping the fog about its breast, the ruin moulders into rest, looking like Lethe, sorry. See, the lake a conscious slumber seems to take, and would not for the world awake. All beauty sleeps, and lo, where lies her easement open to the skies, Irene with her destinies. O Lady bright, can it be right, this window open to the night? The wanton airs from the tree-top laughingly through the lattice drop. The bodiless airs a wizard rout flit through thy chamber in and out, and wave the curtain canopy so fitfully, so fearfully, above the closed and fringed lid, neath which thy slumbering soul lies hid, that o'er the floor and down the wall, like ghosts, the shadows rise and fall. Oh, lady dear, hast thou no fear? Why and what art thou dreaming here? Sure thou art come per far off seas, a wonder to these garden trees. Strange is thy pallor, strange thy dress, strange above all thy length of tress, and this all solemn silentness. The lady sleeps. Oh, may her sleep, which is enduring, so be deep. Heaven have her in its sacred keep, this chamber changed for one more holy, this bed for one more melancholy. I pray to God that she may lie forever with unopened eye, while the dim-sheeted ghosts go by. My love, she sleeps. Oh, may her sleep as it is lasting so be deep. Soft may the worms about her creep. Far in the forest, dim and old for her, may some tall vault unfold, some vault that oft hath flung its black and winged panels fluttering back, triumphant o'er the crested palls of her grand family funerals, some sepulchre remote, alone, against whose portal she hath thrown in childhood many an idle stone, some tomb from out whose sounding door she ne'er shall force an echo more, thrilling to think, O child of sin, it was the dead who groaned within. Well now, Annabel Lee is spooky. I do not know this. Is this a story or a poem? Where am I looking for this? Ah, ceaselessly as Arthur. Hello, Arthur. Everybody say hello to Arthur. Okay, it's a poem I'm hearing from below. Let me see if I can find Annabel Lee. Okay, that's going to be too difficult to search through because your man had a lot of fucking poems. Annabel Lee Poe. Let's see if that comes up with something. Nope. Annabel Lee. It's possible it's just not on this site. Huh. I will look elsewhere. Ah, it's because it's spelt different. And apparently that poetry website is quite pedantic, I guess, is the word I want here. Ooh, apparently, I saw briefly as Wikipedia went by, this was the final complete poem he composed. It's exciting. Okay. Okay, Annabel Lee then. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that lived a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. Good choice. Okay. Okay, Eldritch. Did Annabelle Lee know Puff the Magic Dragon? Entirely possible, though I think that was in a later stage of her career as a terrifying person. Oh, actually, I did go to exactly that same link by this, presumably because it's the same thing, first thing that comes up on there we go, Lenore. Okay. Let's see what we've got. I mean, obviously there's the Raven. Hmm. It's not coming up on that particular website. Some of these Twitch names, those of you who are not on Twitch, so people are very creative with their Twitch names, so very impressed with everyone. I do want to check the other spaces though to see if anyone is seeing if anyone is coming up with other um suggestions. Yeah, soft may the worms about her creep, Sam. It is a hell of a line, and I had to read it out. um, there is a suggestion by Lou elsewhere that I do not think that Edgar Allan Poe was very well. Yep, that's sounds about right. I mean, I can read The Raven if people want me to, but that feels very extra. Um, okay. Ooh, the poem Break, Break, Break by Tennyson. Carbanog, hello. It's been a gazillion years. Let me see what I can do about finding that. Do, 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 do. Need to find one of these sites that does not have bright white uh, at me, but let's see what I can do about getting some Tennyson. Don't know how spooky it is, but we've been asked for it. Oh yeah, that looks immediately. It looks dramatic as fuck. Cool. Let's get some drama in. All right, this interesting lighting might draw back a bit from the screen. It's fine. I'm just gonna have this kind of half white face. It's a look. We're having a look here. So this is Break, Break, Bike, Break by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Again, I have not read this before, so if I stumble, I'm sure you'll all be very forgiving. It's Christmas after all, and in solstice time, we're going to be more forgiving as well. Break, break, break on thy cold grey stones, O sea, and I would that my tongue could utter the thoughts that arise in me. Oh, well for the fisherman's boy that he shouts with his sister at play. Oh, well for the sailor lad that he sings in his boat on the bay. And the stately ships go on to their haven under the hill. But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. Break, break, break at the foot of thy crags, O sea. But the tender grace of a day that is dead will never come back to me. There you go. And now we've got I got distracted by polycule plotting because we have an idea for a joint venture. I'm going to say no more because I don't like teasing people just in case we don't get where we want to go, but it does look interesting. Oh, hi, Karvanog. Hiya. What else have we got? Anybody else saying anything else? Well, nope, people are being very quiet there. Let's have a look at the tubes of you. Nope, we've still got people saying, feel less self-conscious about being dramatic next time I write. Yes, basically, yeah, Poe is always going to make you feel very chill by comparison. Um, oh, okay, thank you, Shy Magpie. Right. Oh, sound sensitivity issues. Is there a problem with the microphone? Do let me know if that's problematic. Um, and Gaia de Vere that has no tear weep now and evermore. All right, I will go and see what I can find using that. Thank you very much. Um, okay. Thank you all for joining us, by the way. I know for some of you it is still the afternoon. For some of you, I don't think there's anyone who's going to be morning time yet. If they are, they're going to be ahead of us. Um, but yeah, it is lovely. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. It was it was right there in that site. It just wouldn't find it. Poets.org, a very, very bright white thing, which is making me look intense. So enjoy that look. Sorry for grossing up the polycule. How very dare I, etc. Um, it's good. This is good. This is a thing that the ADHD is very helpful for, is having 7 conversations at once. Um, Incidentally, uh, if Rose is still watching, hi Rose. One of the Poetry for All events, I'd brushed up on my sign language in order to be able to talk to various folk who might need that, or at least sign supported English, in order to be able to talk to folk who needed that support in conversation. What I hadn't factored on was someone who had twigged from my poem that I was Welsh and wanted to talk to me in Welsh, added to which she was deaf. And so we were using a combination of North of English Sign Language and Welsh, which I had not spoken in a very long time and was never a first language speaker, and was speaking in English to other people as well. So it was a very, very interesting 3 language conversation. Then we had to have an interesting point where I had to interpret what I was saying for autism, so there was a 4 language thing happening. So yeah, saying interpret autism, and I don't know the word for autism in Welsh, so it's probably just autism or something like that, or just a very, very strong accented thing. But if anyone knows any different, do let me know. Um, oh, Poe seems sound sensitive. Yes, there's lots of stuff there, absolutely. It was definitely a conversation. Yeah, there was a lot going on. And it was great, but I felt very awake afterwards. Okay, so this is Lenore. Again, Edgar Allan Poe is being extremely normal here. Um, let's see how this goes. Lenore by Edgar. I'm gonna need some water if it's Poe. Ah, broken is the golden bowl, the spirit flown forever. Let the but I'm a professional speaker, by the way. Just no. Ah, broken is the golden bowl, the spirit fled, flown forever. Let the bell toll, a saintly soul floats on the Stygian river. And Guy de Vere hast thou, no tear weep now and nevermore. See on yon drear and rigid bier now, low lies thy love, Lenore. Come, let the burial rite be read, the funeral song be sung, an anthem for the queenliest dead that ever died so young. A dirge for her, the doubly dead, in that she died so young. Wretches! Ye loved her for her wealth, and hated her for her pride, and when she fell in feeble health, ye blessed her that she died. How shall the ritual then be read, the requiem how be sung? By you, by yours, the evil eye, by yours, the slanderous tongue, that did to death the innocent that died, and died so young? Peccavimus, but rave not thus, and let a Sabbath song go up to God so solemnly, the dead may feel so wrong. The sweet Lenore hath gone before with hope that flew beside, leaving thee wild for the dear child that should have been thy bride. For her, the fair and debonair that now so lowly lies, the life upon her yellow hair, but not within her eyes, the life still there upon her hair, the death upon her eyes. Avaunt, tonight my heart is light, no dirge will I appraise, but waft the angel on her flight with a paean of old days. Let no bell toll, let her sweet soul amidst its hallowed mirth should catch the note as it doth float up from the damned earth to friends above, from fiends below. The indignant ghost is riven from hell unto a high estate far up within the heaven, from grief and groan to a golden throne beside the King of Heaven. Love the idea that autism could be a fourth language. How many Poe poems are a lady's name? Good question, because the question, how many Poe poems are there, seems to be, I believe the technical term is a fuck ton. There are many poems, and I am now learning way more about Poe and his poems than I ever did before. So thanks to you all for um, kind of forcing me to read this stuff. Ah, the bells. Right. Yeah, yeah, Poe was after Thomas's time. That's true. Sorry, Gentle Moth, with whom I share not only a relationship but an obsession with the BBC um, comedy dramatic comedy, Ghosts, um, has mentioned in the chat for Twitch, no one tell Thomas Thorne about Poe. I suspect he would either love him or hate him. Be one of these things where he'd kind of go, "Oh my God, stop being so dramatic," in complete lack of self-awareness. I strongly suspect. Okay. Um, well, we can either find something from someone else, or I can see if any of my own stories fit the bill, or if, I don't know, Leo has something they want me to read. Yes, probably. I think you're right. I think you're right, Ian. Okay. Um, or I can just go back and find more M.R. James, because that was fun. Ah, there we go. So if you don't fancy going via Project Gutenberg, and the thing about Project Gutenberg is it's not actually available in Germany. This is what we found when we were trying to all do a reading of The Musketeers, and we'll go from the same version with a bunch of other fans of The Musketeers, is that our German members could not get hold of that, so we had to download it for them. It's very peculiar. Um, so yeah, but there is an unofficial online resource for all things M.R. James, which is just called the M.R. James Archive, and it has links from, and it's all arranged very neatly, with links to all of his stories. So if there is anything you want me to read from there, then I'm happy to do that. Oh, I've missed the chat. Oh, okay. We have an uh all caps for my stuff. Now I'm kind of going, well, shit. Okay. Thing is, I don't do short stories. So these might be a bit more meaty, certainly than the Poe poems. Well, I can't read you that because that's not finished yet. Uh, uh, hmm. Okay, do you want a bit slightly confusing and metaphysical, or do you want a kind of confessional thing? We don't need short. Well, that's good. Well, the ADHDers slash people in, right, I need to remember what that one's called though. So if the first one, what we wanted was something a bit more, yeah, a bit more unusual. Let me see if I can find it first then. Um, ah, okay. So, I facilitate a few of the people, a number of people here in the chat, um, come to a thing we do every Sunday, 2 till 5 p.m. ish on UK time, um, called the allographic write-in. And one of the things we often do is take random bits of very random books and use those to kind of springboard off to make stuff. Now, some people do clever things with found poetry. They kind of rearrange the quotes into something that just uses those words. Some people take like a single word or a single thing and kind of bounce off it. And other people just kind of expand on the idea from the bit. And this one comes from several things, actually. Um, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing Hesiod, Hesiod. I do apologize. I own a lot of things about Greek mythology I've only ever seen written down. But the quote from this worthy is, "When building a house, you must not leave it unfinished, lest the cawing crow should perch on it and croak." So that's Hesiod, circa 700 BC. Then, "Step on a crack, knife in your mother's back," traditional English rhyme. Shiver, noun. One of the small pieces into which a brittle thing is broken by sudden violence, a hard blow, as with a forearm, especially to the head or neck. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The title of this is Shiver. Only a few people have read it. And yeah, content warning for, let's see, a decline in mental coherence, let's say, paranoia, and implied violence, possibly other things. He sees omens everywhere these days. Grey as he'd expect November to be, cold and drab. Every corner turned glows with foreshadowing. He is mixing his metaphors. It's come to that. But how else to talk about darkness that glitters, tendriling from the flight of birds, cloud formations, the way leaves turn their backs to him, then peer fleetingly the next second as if to say, there he is, a marked man. He knows that's no way for someone in his line of work to be thinking. It's unspeakable, really, but there it is. Dogs snarl at him now. Cats stare where they used to linger, follow, twine about his calves. You can fall into contemplation of the snail's trails under lamplight for uncountable, unconscionable spans of time. They seem to spell out something loudly silent, utterly incomprehensible, but a whisker away from absolute condemnation. The moment when he realized that he was about to wipe away the latest meditated maze of dried slime in case someone else saw, someone who could read it properly, was a sobering one. Pristine handkerchief stuffed back into his pocket, he'd hurried on into the darkness. He thinks, occasionally, about seeking out a professional, dismisses it the next second. What could they tell him that he doesn't already know? He is doomed. His hand is all too often unsteady these days. He is distracted when he should be planning and thinking too much in the moment of action. There's only one way a path like this can go, and he's set his foot on it. Don't think of a white elephant. Don't think of a white elephant. Don't think of a white elephant. Increasingly less frequently, he rallies. This kind of superstitious nonsense is anathema to everything he is, everything he's worked so hard to achieve, to be. He's been rattled by coincidence, that's all, by patterns clattering into place, echoing childhood disgrace by mere happenstance. His grandmother tells him to spit 3 times. He turns on himself like a dog. He is taken to walking in clutches of 3, tiptoeing between cracks like a hopscotching 8-year-old, deft as ever, tapping lampposts and trees in similar patterns of sanctity. It's fine. Fingers crossed, one hand only. It's fine. Handkerchief has a knot in one corner. Remember, remember. It's fine. Coax the black cat across the other way. Psst, psst. Walking the rounds, he calls it. Familiarity breeding a muscle memory that helps a body dodge loose bricks, awkward turning points. It's good to practice, but not afterwards. Not when a job's been done and dusted, and yet here he is, steps slowing into the nonchalant twist that takes him visiting, that has him revisiting, that treads a path into trembling synapses. And it's there, on the pavement, alongside what memory shows him afterwards as a roll of carpet, a hulking yet flimsy dresser, a listing handstand of Edwardian proportions, and all already covered in that fine dew unifying them under the beginnings of frost. The breath that blessed them indoors now gathering the legend of their dissolution across their exiled surface. It's dark. The thing itself, it's dark, impenetrable, gifting back nothing except where a dense web of cracks so hard, he hit his head so hard, around a depression that screams like the sight of a meteorite strike. Crack! Capture the spare light in something even more densely legible than the snail's cryptograms. Did they have it cleaned? Did they find anything? His grandma tells him that a cracked basin keeps germs greedy for dirt. Best get rid of that. Best get rid. Dimly, at the back of his head, an argument. People will notice. No one will notice, or if they do, will merely shrug. He's never stayed anywhere quite so academic in every sense. All phenomena categorized, compartmentalized, interesting, but none of the observer's business. Hairline cracks. Hair. Blood and hair. Witching hour, and he's carrying back a wall mirror very nearly as broad as he's tall, hugged close, like every bit of training in carrying man-sized objects has taught him. Close enough to hear the glass clattering in the frame, the fragments chattering together, the tales we could tell. He has gloves on, of course, but knows all too well the stories imparted by clothing fibres, hairs, skin cells that cling to even the best brushed fabric. This mirror is his now, for better or worse. Should have taken the hat stand. Wherever I hang my hat, and now Paul Young is crooning, mullet rustling, gormlessly grinning in barely remembered some hits wonderdom, and this man has a conglomerate in his head, noisy where it was well ordered, all the doors flung wide, and it makes sense that the phone buzzes just as he's passing over the river. Yes? Where are you? One of many bridges, he mutters, propping the mirror more securely against the parapet. Hold on. Are you still there? That job was ages. No. Wait, did you go back? Don't tell me there are loose ends. No, he says, lying. Good. We lead you in the north, and he names a city 350 miles away, miles to go before I sleep. Should be pretty simple, usual kind of business rival finds someone with a loose tongue job. He is one big loose end. Need you there by noon on Thursday. Might as well tie a knot in me and call me a tassel. Did you hear me? Tassel. Thanks. Yes. Metropolitan. Tomorrow at noon. Can you make it? Of course. Listen to me. You're good. One of the best, but you need to get on the road and get your head right. You don't want head office gunning for you. At least they'd make it quick. Yes, but you don't want that unless... John, do... The voice lowers, getting closer to the microphone. Are we talking retirement package? Are we? No, no, everything's fine. A sigh of relief. Okay, wrap up and get up there and get some sleep. You can't lose your edge, not in this business. No, he agrees, hanging up. He leaves the mirror where it sits, walks off, stuffing bits of himself back into place, enough to bundle himself into an all-night drive. By the next time he sees it, the city will have turned it into art. I could call it the hitman's accusation, a composition of fragments. Don't be daft. He'll get some coffee on the way up. Keep him sharp. According to the forensics report, he must have swerved to avoid something. Animal, maybe. Spun out on the slick surface before smacking into the windscreen. No identifying anything. Nothing. Nothing but bits of glass. Another John Doe. Yes. Shame. That's it. Oh. Cheers, Neve. Yeah, I like that euphemism as well. Uh, Thank you, Eldritch. I don't understand poetry. I'm just here for the calming voice. I mean, I've done gigs where I've come out at the end and people said, "Oh, that was great." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And they go, "I've got to be honest with you, kind of drifted off halfway through the first one." I'm like, "Cool, cool, cool. Um, Great. Well, glad you enjoyed what you heard. Yeah, yeah, you should do like audiobooks or something." This is before then, so it was less ironic when people said that. And I'd go, "Oh, thank you. Yes. Yeah, be great. You'd send people right off to sleep. Thanks so much." Um, on the other hand, I mean, I do have a book if you missed any of that and you're feeling like you want to catch up. It's the only way I could, yeah, sometimes you had to just do that. But yeah, hmm. Well, I'm glad you liked the ambiguity, Ian. What was it a euphemism for? Well, it may have just actually been a retirement package. Or there are plenty of things. Yeah, no, Neve wasn't saying goodbye. Neve was continuing the quote. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's see if anyone has any other requests. That was okay. Where are you? Other people elsewhere? Oh, Sam's going. Ah, thank you for the best start to Christmas is a lovely thing to read. You're very, very welcome. God. Good Lord, there's a lot of Game of Thrones referencing going on in YouTube. Let's have a look at Christabel by Coleridge. All right. Okay. Autism. Oh, diolch yn fawr. Carbanog wedi dydd. Autism, I think is like autisiaeth. Sorry, it's putting a thing over the top. Autisiaeth is autism yn Gymraeg. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much. And mae'n pleasure. Let's have a look. Anything else from anyone else? No. I think we're good on that. Then let's have a look at this one. Christabel by Coleridge. Okay, if you're still here, Carbanog, I'm going to give that a go. Nobody else for anything else? Then I will go searching for Christabel. Cool. Right, back to the Poetry Foundation. Yeah, bright white. Very nearly as bright white as poets.org. Good Lord. This is apparently the the poetry face for this particular session. Gonna have to find a way to change this somehow. Right, okay, Christabel. It's Coleridge, so it ain't fucking short. Oh boy! Nope, this is not short, my friends, and that's only part one. Okay. Are we ready to dig in to a long ass poem? Whether you think that it's soothing or creepy and otherwise. How long am I going till? I'd originally thought until about now, but I think I'll do Christabel and then I'm probably done because tomorrow is going to be a much making day. I've made flapjack tonight. I was going to make fudge and then I went, that's a lot. I had a nap instead of making fudge, which I think is a decent way to do it. Um, so I'm going to do Christabel and then I think we'll call it a night if that's okay with everyone. I think we've very well ushered in at least the UK Christmas Day. If anyone, by the way, knows why it is a tradition to tell scary things on Christmas Eve, because we had Johnny Sims doing the same thing earlier. Um, please let me know if you want to go do the research or whatever, because I've always just taken it as written. That's a thing that happens. Um, Especially people around my age, that used to happen. BBC Two, you'd have like various carol services and stuff like that, and then around about just before midnight, you'd have M.R. James adaptations or other similar creepy things, usually from someone in the 70s, and they were just recycling them, and they were eerie shit. But yeah, fantastic. Neve's gonna go do the research. Thank you very much, Neve. All right, lovely stuff. I'm gonna read Christabel. I might have to take some pauses for water between part one and part two. And oh, I have tea actually. Recommend these, by the way. Very good for people with ADHD because they keep it warm for ages. So by the time you've remembered it exists, it's the right temperature. Hmm. Not so good if you need something quickly. This is very good for the sound booth as well, by the way, because it is very difficult for it to tip and spill anything. See, very, 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 very waterproof. And so yeah, it's just very good. So it's good for the dyspraxic and for those people who forget they have a cup of tea. Definitely recommend it. How else is one supposed to frighten children if they don't believe in Krampus? A good point. Yep, I think yep, Magpie, those are definitely valid solutions to that particular conundrum. But also, since I'm a poet, even when I'm writing prose, I leave things a bit ambiguous. Right, I've had tea. I've cracked me knuckles, which for some reason is important for heading into someone else's long poem. Oh, Coleridge. This is Christabel. 'Tis the middle of night by the castle clock, and the owls have awakened the crowing cock. To whit, to whoo, and hark again the crowing cock, how drowsily it crew. Sir Leoline, the rich Baron rich, hath the toothless mastiff bitch. From her kennel beneath the rock she maketh answer to the clock. 4 for the quarters and 12 for the hour. Ever and aye by shine and shower 16 short howls not over loud. Some say she sees my lady's shroud. Is the night chilly and dark? The night is chilly, but not dark. The thin grey cloud is spread on high. It covers, but not hides the sky. The moon is behind and at the full, and yet she looks both small and dull. The night is chill, the cloud is grey. 'Tis a month before the month of May, and the spring comes slowly up this way. The lovely lady, Christabel, whom her father loves so well, what makes her in the woods so late, a furlong from the castle gate? She had dreams all yesternight of her own betrothed knight, and she in the midnight wood will pray for the weal of her lover that's far away. She stole along, She nothing spoke, the sighs she heaved were soft and low, and naught was green upon the oak but moss and rarest mistletoe. She kneels beneath the huge oak tree, and in silence prayeth she. The lady sprang up suddenly, the lovely Lady Christabel. It moaned as near can be, but what it is she cannot tell. On the other side it seems to be of the huge broad-breasted old oak tree. The night is chill, the forest bare. Is it the wind that moaneth bleak? There is not wind enough in the air to move away the ringlet curl from the lovely lady's cheek. There is not wind enough to twirl the one red leaf, the last of its clan, that dances as often as dance it can, hanging so light and hanging so high on the topmost twig that looks up at the sky. Hush, beating heart of Christabel, Jesu Maria, shield her well. She folded her arms beneath her cloak and stole to the other side of the oak. What sees she there? There she sees a damsel bright, dressed in a silken robe of white, that shadowy in the moonlight shone, the neck that made this right. I can read. There she sees a damsel bright, dressed in a silken robe of white, that shadowy in the moonlight shone, the neck that made that white robe wan. Her stately neck and arms were bare, her blue-veined feet unsandaled were, and wildly glittered here and there the gems entangled in her hair. A guess was frightful there to see a lady so richly clad as she, beautiful exceedingly. Mary, mother, save me now, said Christabel, and who art thou? The lady strange made answer meet, and her voice was faint and sweet. Have pity on my sore distress, I scarce can speak for weariness. Stretch forth thy hand, and have no fear. Said Christabel, how camest thou here? The lady, whose voice was faint and sweet, did thus pursue her answer meet. My sire is of a noble line, and my name is... I'm sorry. I'm going to have to either pronounce it to rhyme or pronounce it how I want it, but not to rhyme. Okay. My sire is of a noble line, and my name is Geraldine. 5 warriors seized me yestermorn, me, even me, a maid forlorn. They choked my cries with force and fright, and tied me on a palfrey white. The palfrey was as fleet as wind, and they rode furiously behind. They spurred amain, their steeds were white, and once we crossed the shade of night. As sure as heaven shall rescue me, I have not thought what men they be, nor do I know how long it is, for I have lain entranced I was, since one, the tallest of the 5, took me from the palfrey's back, a weary woman, scarce alive. Some muttered words his comrade spoke. He placed me underneath this oak. He swore they would return with haste. Whither they went I cannot tell. I thought I heard some minutes past sounds as of a castle bell. Stretch forth thy hand, thus ended she, and help a wretched maid to flee. Then Christabel stretched forth her hand, and comforted fair Geraldine. O well, bright dame, may you command the service of Sir Leoline, and gladly our stout chivalry will he set forth, and friends withal, to guide and guard you safe and free home to your noble father's hall. She rose, and forth with steps they passed that strove to be, and were not, fast. Her gracious stars the lady blessed, and thus spake on sweet Christabel, all our household are at rest. The hall is silent as the cell. Sir Leoline is weak in health, and may not well awakened be. But we will move as if in stealth, and I beseech your courtesy this night to share your couch with me. They crossed the moat, and Christabel took the key that fitted well. A little door she opened straight, all in the middle of the gate that was ironed within and without. where an army in battle array had marched out. The lady sank, but like through pain, and Christabel, with might and main, lifted her up, a weary weight, over the threshold of the gate. Then the lady rose again and moved, as she were not in pain. So free from danger, free from fear, they crossed the court. Right glad they were, and Christabel devoutly cried to the lady by her side, Praise we the Virgin all divine, who hath rescued thee from thy distress. Alas, alas, said Geraldine, I cannot speak for weariness. So free from danger, free from fear, they crossed the courtyard, right glad they were. Outside her kennel, the mastiff old lay fast asleep in moonshine cold. The mastiff old did not awake, yet she an angry moan did make. And what can ail the mastiff bitch? Never till now she uttered yell beneath the eye of Christabel. Perhaps it is the owlet scritch, for what can ail the mastiff bitch? They passed the hall that echoes still. Pass as lightly as you will. The brands were flat, the brands were dying, amid their own white ashes lying. But when the lady passed, there came a tongue of light, a fit of flame, and Christabel saw the lady's eye, and nothing else saw she thereby, save the boss of the shield of Sir Leoline Tool, which hung on a murky old niche in the wall. "Oh, softly tread," said Christabel, "my father seldom sleepeth well." Sweet Christabel her feet doth bear, and jealous of the listening air, they steal their way from stair to stair, now in glimmer and now in gloom, and now they pass the Baron's room, and still as death, with stifled breath, and now have reached her chamber door, and now doth Geraldine press down the rushes of the chamber floor. I forgot it's supposed to be Geraldine, everyone forgive me. The moon shines dim in the open air, and not a moonbeam enters here. But they without its light can see the chamber carved so curiously, carved with figures strange and sweet, all made out of the carver's brain for a lady's chamber meet. The lamp with twofold silver chain is fastened to an angel's feet. The silver lamp burns dead and dim, but Christabel the lamp will trim. She trimmed the lamp and made it bright, and left it swinging to and fro, while Geraldine in wretched plight sank down upon the floor below. "Oh, weary lady, Geraldine, I pray you drink this cordial wine. It is a wine of virtuous powers, my mother made it of wild flowers. And will your mother pity me, who am a maiden most forlorn?" Christabel answered, "Woe is me! She died at the hour that I was born. I have heard the grey-haired friar tell how on her deathbed she did say that she should hear the castle bell strike 12 upon my wedding day. Oh, mother dear, that thou wert here! I would," said Geraldine, "she were." But soon with altered voice said she, "Off, wandering mother, peak and pine, I have power to bid thee flee." Alas, what ails poor Geraldine? Why stares she with unsettled eye? Can she the bodiless dead espy? And why with hollow voice cries she, "Off, woman, off, this hour is mine, though thou her guardian spirit be. Off, woman, off, 'tis given to me." Then Christabel knelt by the lady's side, and raised to heaven her eyes so blue. "Alas," said she, "this ghastly ride, dear lady, it hath wildered you." The lady wiped her moist cold brow, and faintly said, "'Tis over now." Again the wildflower wine she drank, her fair large eyes gan glitter bright, and from the floor whereon she sank, the lofty lady stood upright. She was most beautiful to see, like a lady of a far country. And thus the lofty lady spake, "All they who live in the upper sky do love you, holy Christabel, and you love them, and for their sake, and for the good which me befell, even I in my degree will try, fair maiden, to requite you well. But now unrobe yourself, for I must pray, ere yet in bed I lie. Quoth Christabel, so let it be. And as the lady bade, did she, her gentle limbs did she undress, and lay down in her loveliness. But through her brain of weal and woe so many thoughts moved to and fro, that vain it were her lids to close. So halfway from the bed she rose, and on her elbow did recline to look at Lady Geraldine. Beneath the lamp the lady bowed, and slowly rolled her eyes around. Then, drawing in her breath aloud, like one that shuddered, she unbound the cincture from beneath her breast, her silken robe and inner vest dropped to the feet, and in full view behold her bosom and half her side, a sight to dream of, not to tell. Oh, shield her, shield sweet Christabel! Yet Geraldine nor speaks nor stirs. Ah, what a stricken look was hers! Deep from within she seems halfway to lift some weight with sick essay, and eyes the maid and seeks to lay. Then suddenly, as one defied, collects herself in scorn and pride, and lay down by the maiden's side, and in her arms the maid she took. Ah, well a day! And with low voice and doleful look these words did say: In the touch of this bosom there worketh a spell, which is lord of thy utterance, Christabel. Thou knowest tonight, and will know tomorrow, this mark of my shame, this seal of my sorrow. But vainly thou worrest, for this is alone in thy power to declare, that in the dim forest thou heardst a low moaning, and foundst a bright lady surpassing fair, and didst bring her home with thee in love and in charity, to shield her and shelter her from the damp air. Conclusion to Part 1. It was a lovely sight to see the Lady Christabel when she was praying at the old oak tree, amid the jagged shadows of mossy, leafless boughs, kneeling in the moonlight to make her gentle vows, her slender palms together pressed, heaving sometimes on her breast, her face resigned to bliss or bale, her face, oh, call it fair, not pale, and both blue eyes more bright than clear, each about to have a tear. This conclusion still continues: with open eyes, ah, woe is me, asleep and dreaming fearfully, fearfully dreaming, yet I wis, dreaming that alone which is. Oh, sorrow and shame! Can this be she, the lady who knelt at the old oak tree? And lo, the worker of these harms, that holds the maiden in her arms, seems to slumber still and mild, as a mother with her child. A star hath set, the star hath risen. O Geraldine, since arms of thine hath been the lovely lady's prison, O Geraldine, 1 hour with thine was thine. Thou hadst thy will by ten and rill. The night birds all that hour were still, but now they are jubilant anew. From cliff and tower, to whoo, to whoo, to whoo, to whoo, from wood and fell. And see, the Lady Christabel gathers herself from out her trance, her limbs relax, her countenance grows sad and soft, the smooth thin lids close o'er her eyes, and tears she sheds, large tears that leave the lashes bright. And oft the while she seems to smile, as infants at a sudden light. Yet she doth smile, and she doth weep, like a youthful hermitess beauteous in a wilderness, who, praying always, prays in sleep. And if she move unquietly, perchance 'tis but the blood so free comes back and tingles in her feet. No doubt she hath a vision sweet. What if her guardian spirit twere? What if she knew her mother near? But this she knows in joys and woes, that saints will aid if men will call, for the blue sky bends over all. I'm going to have some tea before part 2 because this is not a short piece, holy crap. Mm. Oh, Neve's been doing research. We'll talk about that in a minute. I say a minute, however long fucking part two is. Not gonna be short. Thanks for this, Carbanog, but whew, strap in. Part two. Each matin bell, the Baron saith, knells us back to a world of death. These words Sir Leoline first said when he rose and found his lady dead. These words Sir Leoline will say many a moon to his dying day. And hence the custom and law began that still at dawn the sacristan, who duly pulls the heavy bell, 45 beads must tell, between each stroke a warning knell, which not a soul can choose but hear, from Brathahead to Windermere. Saith Bracy the bard, so let it knell, and let the drowsy sacristan still count as slowly as he can. There is no lack of such, I ween, as well fill up the space between in Langdale Pike and Witch's Lair and Dungeon Gill, so foully rent with ropes of rock and bells of air. 3 sinful sextons' souls are ghosts are pent, who all give back, one after t'other, the death note to their living brother. And oft, too, by the knell offended, just as their 1, 2, 3 is ended, the devil mocks the doleful tale with a merry peal from Borrowdale. The air is still. Through mist and cloud that merry peal comes ringing loud, and Geraldine shakes off her dread, and rises lightly from the bed, puts on her silken vestments white, and tricks her hair in lovely plight, and nothing doubting of her spell, awakens the Lady Christabel. Sleep you, sweet Lady Christabel? I trust that you have rested well. Christabel awoke and spied the same who lay down by her side, or rather say the same whom she raised up beneath the old oak tree, nay, fairer still, and yet more fair, for she belike hath drunken deep of all the blessedness of sleep, and while she spake, her looks, her air, such gentle thankfulness declare, that, so it seemed, her girded vests grew tight beneath her heaving breasts. Sure I have sinned, said Christabel, now heaven be praised if all be well. And in low faltering tones, yet sweet, did she the lofty lady greet, with such perplexity of mind as dreams too lively leave behind. So quickly she rose, and quickly arrayed her maiden limbs, and having prayed that he who on the cross did groan may wash away her sins unknown, she forthwith led fair Geraldine to meet her sire, Sir Leoline. The lovely maid and the Lady Toole are pacing both into the hall, and pacing on through page and groom, enter the Baron's presence room. The Baron rose, and while he pressed his gentle daughter to his breast, with cheerful wonder in his eyes the Lady Geraldine espies, and gave such welcome to the same as might beseem so bright a dame. But when he heard the lady's tale, and when she told her father's name, why waxed Sir Leoline so pale, murmuring o'er the name again? Sir Roland de Vaux of Triamain, alas! They had been friends in youth, but whispering tongues can poison truth, and constancy lives in realms above, and life is thorny and youth is vain, and to be wroth with one we love doth work like madness in the brain. And thus it chanced, as I divine, with Roland and Sir Leoline each spake words of high disdain, an insult to his heart's best brother. They parted, ne'er to meet again, but never either found another to free the hollow heart from paining. They stood aloof, the scars remaining, like cliffs which had been rent asunder. A dreary sea now flows between, but neither heat, nor frost, nor thunder shall wholly do away, I ween, the marks of that which once hath been. Sir Leoline, a moment's space, stood gazing on the damsel's face, and the youthful lord of Triamain came back upon his heart again. And then the Baron forgot his age, his noble heart swelled high with rage. He swore by the wounds in Jesu's side he would proclaim it far and wide, with trump and solemn heraldry, that they who thus had wronged the dame were base as spotted infamy, and if they dare deny the same, my herald shall appoint a week, and let the recreant traitors seek my tourney court, that there and then I may dislodge their reptile souls from bodies and forms of men. He spake, his eye in lightning rolls, for the lady was ruthlessly seized, and he kenned in the beautiful lady the child of his friend. Now the tears were on his face, and fondly in his arms he took fair Geraldine, who met the embrace, prolonging it with a joyous look, which when she viewed, a vision fell upon the soul of Christabel, the vision of fear, the touch and pain. She shrunk and shuddered, and saw again, ah, woe is me! Was it for thee, thou gentle maid, such sights to see? Again she saw that bosom old, again she felt that bosom cold, and drew in her breath with a hissing sound, whereat the knight told wildly round, and nothing saw but his own sweet maid, with eyes upraised as one that prayed. The touch, the sight, had passed away, and in its stead that vision blest which comforted her after rest, while in the lady's arms she lay, had put a rapture in her breast, and on her lips and o'er her eyes spread smiles like light with new surprise. "What ails me then, my beloved child?" the baron said. His daughter mild made answer, "All will yet be well." I ween she has no power to tell aught else, so mighty was the spell. Yet he who saw this Geraldine had deemed her sure a thing divine. Such sorrow with such grace she blended, as if she feared she had offended sweet Christabel, that gentle maid, and with such lowly tones she prayed that she might be sent without delay home to her father's mansion. "Nay, nay, by my soul," said Leonine, "ho, Bracy the bard, the charge be thine. Go thou with sweet music and loud, and take 2 steeds with trappings proud, and take the youth whom thou lovest best to bear thy harp and learn thy song, and clothe you both in solemn vest, and o'er the mountains haste along, lest wandering folk that are abroad detain you on the valley road. And when he has crossed the Irving flood, my merry bard, he hastes up Norran Moor through Halegarth wood, and reaches soon that castle good which stands and threatens Scotland's waste. Bard Bracy, your horses are fleet, yet must ride up the hall, your music so sweet, more loud than your horses' echoing feet, and loud to Lord Roland call, thy daughter is safe in Langdale Hall. Thy beautiful daughter is safe and free. Sir Leoline greets thee thus through me. He bids thee come without delay with all thy numerous array, and take thy lovely daughter home. He will meet thee on the way with all his numerous array, white with their panting palfreys' foam, and by mine honour I will say that I repent me of the day when I spake words of fierce disdain to Roland de Vaux of Triamain. For since that evil hour hath flown, many a summer's sun hath shone, yet ne'er found I a friend again like Roland de Vaux of Triamain." The lady fell and clasped his knees, her face upraised, her eyes o'erflowing, and Bracy replied with faltering voice, "His gracious hail on all bestowing thy words, thou sire of Christabella, were sweeter than my harp can tell. Yet might I gain a boon of thee, this day my journey should not be so. Strange a dream hath come to me, that I had vowed with music loud to clear yon wood from thing unblessed, warned by a vision in my rest, for in my sleep I saw that dove, that gentle bird whom thou dost love, and callest by thine own daughter, thy own daughter's name, Sir Leoline. I saw the same fluttering and uttering fearful moan among the green herbs in the forest alone, which when I saw and when I heard, I wondered what might ail the bird, for nothing near it could I see, save the grass and green herbs underneath the old tree. And in my dream, methought, I went to search out what might there be found, and what the sweet bird's trouble meant, that thus lay fluttering on the ground. I went and peered, and could descry no cause for her distressful cry, but yet for her dear lady's sake I stooped, methought, the dove to take, when lo, I saw a bright green snake coiled around its wings and neck, green as the herbs on which it couched. Close by the dove's its head it couched, and with the dove it heaves and stirs, swelling its neck as she swelled hers. I woke. It was the midnight hour. The clock was echoing in the tower, but though my slumber was gone by, this dream it would not pass away. It seems to live upon my eye. And thence I vowed this self same day with music strong and saintly song to wander through the forest bare, lest aught unholy loiter there. Thus Bracy said. The Baron, the while, half listening, heard him with a smile, and turned to Lady Geraldine, his eyes made up of wonder and love, and said in courtly accents fine, sweet maid, Lord Roland's beauteous dove, with arms more strong than harp or song, thy sire and I will crush the snake. He kissed her forehead as he spake, and Geraldine, in maiden wise, casting down her large bright eyes, with blushing cheek and courtesy fine, she turned her from Sir Leoline, softly gathering up her train that o'er her right arm fell again, and folded her arms across her chest, and couched her head upon her breast, and looked askance at Christabel. Jesu Maria, shield her well. A snake's small eye blinks dull and shy, and the lady's eyes they shrunk in her head, each shrunk up to a serpent's eye, and with somewhat of malice and more of dread, at Christabel. She looked askance one moment, and the sight was fled, but Christabel, in dizzy trance, stumbling on the unsteady ground, shuddered aloud with a hissing sound, and Geraldine again turned round, and like a thing that sought relief, full of wonder and full of grief, she rolled her large bright eyes divine wildly on Sir Leoline. The maid, alas, her thoughts are gone, she nothing sees, no sight but one. The maid, devoid of guile and sin, I know not how, in fearful wise, so deeply she had drunken in that look, those shrunken serpent eyes, that all her features were resigned to this sole image in her mind, and passively did imitate that look of dull and treacherous hate. And thus she stood in dizzy trance, still picturing that look askance, with forced unconscious sympathy, full before her father's view, as far as such a look could be, in eyes so innocent and blue. And when the trance was o'er, the maid paused awhile and inly prayed, then, falling at the Baron's feet, by my mother's soul do I entreat that thou this woman send away. She said, and more she could not say, for what she knew she could not tell, though mastered by the mighty spell. Why is thy cheek so wan and wild, Sir Leoline? Thy only child lies at thy feet, thy joy, thy pride, so fair, so innocent, so mild, the same for whom thy lady died. Oh, by the pangs of her dear mother, think thou no evil of thy child. For her and thee, and for no other, she prayed the moment ere she died. Prayed that the babe for whom she died might prove her dear lord's joy and pride. That prayer her deadly pangs beguiled, Sir Leoline. And wouldst thou wrong thy only child, her child and thine? Within the Baron's heart and brain, if thoughts like these had any share, they only swelled his rage and pain, and did but work confusion there. His heart was cleft with pain and rage, his cheeks they quivered, his eyes were wild, dishonoured thus in his old age, dishonoured by his only child, and all his hospitality to the wronged daughter of his friend, by more than woman's jealousy brought thus to a disgraceful end. He rolled his eye with stern regard upon the gentle minstrel bard, and said in tones abrupt, austere, "Why, Bracy, dost thou linger here? I beg thee hence." The bard obeyed, and turning from his own sweet maid, the aged knight, Sir Leoline, led forth the Lady Geraldine. This is the conclusion to part 2. A little child, a limber elf, singing, dancing to itself, a fairy thing with round red cheeks that always finds and never seeks, makes such a vision to the sight as fills a father's eyes with light, and pleasures flow in so thick and fast upon his heart that he at last but needs express his love's excess with words of unmeant bitterness. Perhaps 'tis pretty to force together thoughts so all unlike each other, so mutter and mock a broken charm, to dally with wrong that does no harm. Perhaps 'tis tender too and pretty at each wild word to feel within a sweet recoil of love and pity. And what If in a world of sin, oh sorrow and shame, should this be true, such giddiness of heart and brain comes seldom save from rage and pain, so talks as it's most used to do. And that appears to be the end. Unless anyone knows that if there's a part three, that is Christabel. Samuel Taylor Coleridge not being a man who was very focused on perhaps always finishing everything, let's say. But yeah, that's what I've got. Um, okay, now we've got talks about LARP. Oh, okay. And we have some research done by Neve, which I will read out for those people who were wondering why we do ghost stories on Christmas Eve. I'm going to check to see if Karbanog has got anything else to tell me about this, but I'm going to bed soon. That's what I'm going to do.
So apparently Coleridge never finished it because he was too busy getting high on opium in Kendal.
Yeah, I don't know if we all can hear that, but apparently he was too busy getting high on opium in Kendal to finish the fucking poem.
So he penned a quick conclusion and like never
What a
properly finished
flake.
it.
He just kind of went, well, dads do that, right? And that was it.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, let's see. Um, okay. Carbonara gives me nothing else. So yeah, that's it. We're gonna go to bed soon. I'm gonna just check in with uh YouTube to see how everyone's doing there. Wanted to make sure that I wish everyone the best of the season, whether you want it peaceful or productive or fun or just over quickly, whatever works for you. I hope that's how it turns out for you. Um, so Ash thinks it's a pagan leftover. It was Halloween, but originally it was Ghost Stories on Christmas Eve. Apparently, so you watched a documentary on 2 days ago, but ADHD. Okay. So according to Ash, it's originally we thought that the winter solstice was when the veil between living and dead was thinnest. So yep, there we go. And I'm going to look at what Neve's told us. Lots to tell us. I'm going to move this over here since I no longer need to really split the screen so much. Come on. Come on, computer. You can do it. Good computer. What do you mean you don't talk to your devices like this? Do you get good results? That's what I want to say. Okay. So, um, yes, Shy Magpie, when you're saying um about the retirement package, yes. Whew. Terms and agnostic thing, yes, this is something we came up with a few years ago and it's kind of stuck. Lou does not have ADHD, so we're going to be going to bed soon. Right. Yes, yes, yes. Geraldine. Oh, Neve says one of the most famous Christmas carols, Christmas stories of all. Christmas Carol is essentially a ghost story. Good point. The stark contrast between our warm houses and the coldness outside can create a sense of a liminal space between dark and light and between the end of the old year and the beginning of a new one. Good call. This can encourage reflection on liminal beings that cannot easily be defined or understood, such as ghosts and spirits. The religious themes of Christmas also encourage many people to lean into the supernatural. Part of the incentive to tell ghost stories was a belief that spirits had license for mischief on Christmas Eve, a kind of free play for ghosts before they were said to restrain themselves on the holy day to follow. And apparently, good lord, there's quite a few stories of Santa and Satan teaming up to make the naughty and nice lists and see all the children. And people, this was all being typed up as I was reading the reading Clementine, Annabelle even. Oh, what did I just read? It was very long. Christabel, that's the one. Right. So people were just going the bells. Wow, this just got sapphic. It really did. I tried not to break out and comment on it, but gosh. So it's a lot more similar but kind of different. Ancient cultures believe that the darkest nights of winter were when the veil between the living and the dead was thinnest. That's what Ashton said. Good. Allowing spirits like the wild hunt to roam, making it a natural time for ghostly tales. Remember, folks, if you have put decorations up, to make sure you take them down by 12th night. Otherwise, the wild hunt will come and take you away. So make sure you take your decorations down in time. Okay. Thanks. People riffing on my spoonerism over the Mary Bard Barry Mard is a new D&D character. And that's it. There's a lot. Good Lord. I need someone to talk to me like Faye talks to their computer. Well, I wish you great luck finding them. Sooks, yes, that is the way to fix things. And that is an amazing job. Well done. That is skilled work. All right. And Eldritch is just going to leave the decorations up and wait for the hunt. And you know what? Mood at the moment. Right. Beautiful folk. This has been a blast. It has been a wild ride of its own. Um, Facebook is not letting me see all the comments, so I'm just going to hope I haven't missed anything from you lot. And I'm going to thank you all for joining me and wish you all the very best of the season, whatever that means to you. And yes, may you be merry and bright or just get a lot of sleep, whatever works for you. Um, and I'll see you again soon. Maybe I'll do something else like this some other time if people would like me to come back and do more of the same. Um, but I think I need to stop the thing from here. It's going to be exciting. I hope I don't lose all of the chat. Just check back in the chat to make sure it doesn't all disappear on me. Because that would be a shame if I missed everything. Yes, sleep well, folks. And you're very welcome, Sooks. Um, oh, we thought you were Eldritch. All of that time. 12 possums in a robe. 12 opossums in a robe. It is a very good name. Um, so yes. Yes, I got confused. But we'll tell Eldritch because I was confused because Eldritch said that they couldn't make it. So anyway, yes, we'll say hi. And to everybody, have a really, really good night. Yes, I'm so sorry. Um in my defense, it was way over there on my much smaller screen, and I was kind of peering, going, that seems to be a person. Anyway, good night, folks. Sleep well, and hopefully see you again soon. Ta-ra. Right, let's finish the live stream.